is John Glover, Chairman and CEO of Christian Men Inc. I really want to welcome you to our Rock Solid Financial seminar today. It is a part of our Get Your House in Order program, and we are intending again to have this program for a conference in April, and we will send you a save a date at a later date. I thank you again for your assistance and support for Christian Men Inc. and its program. Today, what we want to talk about again is just those principles that sort of help us identify steps and budgets and activities in order to try to prepare ourselves financially for days and weeks ahead, and to help ourselves individually, help our families, and also help our communities. But when we look at our total programming of Christian Men Inc., we have 4 core programs that we are putting forth in order to support this endeavor. One is the Get Your House in Order program. The second one is Soaring to Success. The third one is the 3-Generation Initiative. And the fourth one is Community Press Corps. There is an overlap in these programs in order to present a seamless, comprehensive approach to building a program that will be able to speak to the needs today of the individual and the family. One of the things that we want to do is make sure, as you understand, our desire to have outcomes for Christian Men Inc., which encompasses reduction of poverty, alleviation, economic empowerment, and also generational wealth. We want to be able to understand the principles that will get us from day to day, also be able to leave legacy to our family and for our family, so that when things are considered, we will have the resources to support that agenda. And one of the key points to our 3-Generation Initiative is that it speaks to encountering a Road to Life program from 7 years old to 17-year-old is for our youth, and for the young adults is from 18 to 35, and for our seniors, 36-year-old and out, program from 7 years old to 80 years old. And what we really want to do is focus on our young adults is from 18 to 35 years old, because that's sort of will be our connector to our youth and to our seniors, so that we'll be able to always have a replacement of peoples that can be trained up into leadership and doing those things that would be necessary to stabilize the program, but also to replace leadership for whatever reason. One of the things that we want to talk about again is the benefits, some of the benefits to the program. When we look at the benefits for the program, we want to start talking about one of the chief benefits is that the cost for the youth 7 to 17 is $25 a year annually. And the cost for the young adults is $45 a year annually. And for the seniors, 36 years old and out, it's $55 a year. But what we provide is a certificate, a $1,000 certificate, whole life insurance, so that you'll have that at least in case that something happens or you need some dollars in order to bury yourself or your loved ones. When we look at the type of program that we are presenting, that is personally for you as a member, but you can expand it to cover your family uh, for life insurance. Of course, that would be a premium that you would be responsible for, but you also can increase your own personal life insurance expenses. But the first $1,000 is a benefit that we incur, and once you pay your annual fee, that will cover that cost for that first $1,000. So those are the premier benefit that would be looked, but there's many other, such as workshops. That would be other types of material and stuff that would be available to you because of your membership. And so we will be putting together a package for you to be able to review that on a timely basis with what we're doing and what we need to do. Today, again, as we talk about our rock solid finance, we always want to be looking at a conversation between the facilitator and the group, the ones that are participating, because we want to be able to exchange ideas and concepts with one another and strategies so that we can always be looking for best practices. And our approach to this, our business model, is a group of 3 to 12 members in order to be able to facilitate that kind of conversation. But with that said, we'll be looking for you to join us, and we'll be excited to have this conversation. Have a great day, and we'll be talking with you in the future.
There he is, my brother.
What you say, man?
Hey, great, great. Having a double header here, AM and a PM. I love it.
As long as it lines up right, man.
Yeah,
I don't mind
yeah.
the AM and PM, you know?
Well, we're lining it up. Appreciate the intro, the warm welcome that you did for the brothers that have registered for the program. We had a little challenge early on with the AM session. We hope to have everything squared away for the PM. So for this session. What I want to do is just to kind of give the overview of the Get Your House in Order conference, which was held in June, and how this is what we're doing now. The Get Your House in Order series of courses. And this first series is entitled Rock Solid Finances. Now, during the conference, we had a number of speakers that was speaking on a number of topics, everything from credit, how to buy a home, retirement planning, life insurance, pre-need insurance, type of health insurance. So we covered the gambit during the conference with the various speakers in sharing their expertise. What we want to do now is drill down. We want to provide the information, particularly the financial information that we know is important, and that no one conference is going to be or allow enough time for anyone to glean what they need to glean to get their house in order. So one of the things that we know is that business and finances and money, that's an ongoing life learning process about really how to handle money. what's the best way to handle money? And especially right now, we've been hearing a lot of talk about the racial wealth gap. And in conversations that we've had in the past, you've always mentioned about the income gap, for blacks and whites. The average black family has about $17,000 of net worth, and the white family's average net worth is $171,000. That's a tenfold difference there between black and white net worth, and and it's been growing. So it isn't just that it's started in the past year, 2 years, 10 years. We can go back to when Martin Luther King even began the Poor People's March, which had a platform on talking about finance and money and best practices and eliminating of redlining and everything around economics. Well, that's one of the areas that we're focusing in on, to provide the resources, the financial resources, on a continuous basis, so that it's not just at a conference, that there can be content material and resources that if a brother wants to speak with someone, that they can pick up the phone, shoot an email, and have a question answered, offer some insights and recommendations, and for the most part, provide whatever assistance is needed. We may not be able to provide it directly, but we may know someone that is in that space and can offer some recommendations. And the key with all of this is the rock solid finance is really to present biblically based principles that is going to enable each one of us to better handle and manage our money. We always hear the term, what is a steward? That we are a steward. I kind of use the phrase trustee, that we're a trustee. And so there's legal as well as spiritual requirements in that regard. And as a trustee, we're to manage what has been given to us, our time, our talents, our resources, our temple. So, and that's going to be one of the linchpins, points that is being offered in the rock solid finances. So what we want to do now is allow the viewing of the rock solid finance presentation. And what I'll do is pause for a second and switch over so that that can be viewed by all those that are participating at this point. So hold on for 1 second. I'll get that squared away. We would expect, if you look at times when white majority has essentially power, you have Reconstruction, which ended in ethnic cleansing, and you have California in the 1990s, which ended with a multiracial coalition that has held more or less that time. It is not hard for Democrats to be the party of public education. We want kids to have schools that are safe and teach accurate history, not fairy tales. And many of those parents, white, black, and brown, want their kids to learn real history, and we talk about it that way. Even when some of those things are uncomfortable, we want our kids to learn critical thinking skills. That's how they're going to compete in today's work environment, and we shouldn't be afraid of that. Part of what's happened is Democrats have wanted to unilaterally call for a détente in the culture wars because the Democratic Party doesn't support CRT and doesn't support defund. Therefore, it's not surprising that only one side is fighting before they are winning it very much candidly. So we should talk about being pro teacher, talk about being for a safe and accurate curriculum. As we see Confederate monuments, the war propaganda monuments down, we see monuments of black liberation go up. That is true history. It's also inspiring history when it's taught the right way. Sorry, I was depending on saying it's an amazing story of America that the former CEO, Carl, there's no flex about that, but I just think it's incredible. Thank you both. Yeah.
Well, let me welcome you to Rock Solid Finances. You should have some notes in front of you. Want to encourage you to use those as we go along. The picture that you see right now has always fascinated me. It's one of the most stunning photographs I've ever seen. This photo was taken in 2008, right after Hurricane Ike absolutely destroyed this coastal community in Gilchrist, Texas. Over 200 homes in this community were just flattened to the ground, but somehow this was the only house that survived. Now, we'd be amazed if there were just some of the frame of this house up, or maybe just a few things still sticking out of the ground, but this house didn't just survive, it thrived. It looks like you could actually live in this house right now, while everything else around it is destroyed. How does that happen? Well, there's a simple reason. It had the right foundation. This class is called Rock Solid Finances because what I want to do in the next few hours is I want to give you a foundation for your finances that will hold up through the storms of life and withstand the test of time. A foundation that will allow you to thrive in an area of life where so many people stumble and oftentimes see some devastating effects on their lives. You know, the Bible has a lot to say about having a strong foundation in our lives. As a matter of fact, I want you to listen to some words of Jesus as he describes what actually gives us a strong foundation. In Matthew 7, verse 24 through 25, Jesus says this. He says, "These words that I speak to you," in other words, all the things that Jesus was teaching, "they are not incidental additions to your life, homeowner improvements to your standard of living. They are like foundational words, words to build a life on. If you work these words into your life, you are like a smart carpenter who built his house on solid rock. Rain poured down, the river flooded, a tornado hit, but nothing moved that house. It was fixed to the rock." If you haven't already, my hope today is that you realize that when it comes to your finances, there's really only one place to turn for answers on how to have a rock-solid foundation. It's the Bible, God's instruction manual for life. Now, it took me a while to figure that out on this topic, finances. I knew the Bible had a lot to say about other topics. I just didn't think it had anything to say about finances. And while I feel like I have rock-solid finances now, that was not always the case. You see, like many of you, my views on finances were shaped at an early age. And as I got older and into life, I just modeled financially whatever I'd seen in my life. See, no one had really taught me biblical financial principles. You see, I grew up in an amazing Christian home. I had amazing Christian parents, but there was one issue in my parents' marriage that drove them apart more than anything else. You see, my parents argued about money all the time. And I can still picture them sitting at the kitchen table with a stack of bills and bank statements spread everywhere, so angry, just arguing and pointing fingers at each other because, well, the money was all gone. You see, they argued about money constantly, and it was the issue that drove their marriage apart more than anything else. And today, my parents are divorced. And as I watched this growing up as a teenager, I vividly remember making this promise to myself that I would never let money be an issue in my marriage. I was committed to that. Well, fast forward, my wife Jamie and I were married right out of college. We both got great jobs. We were making double what my parents had ever made. And I thought to myself, we are set. Because all growing up, I thought my parents' issue was, well, they just didn't have enough money. But after 1 year of marriage, we're all of a sudden $25,000 in consumer debt, not including a large home mortgage. We worked hard, we spent harder, no budgets, no restraints. We had a new home to furnish, cars to buy, stuff to get. We deserved our money and to be happy. But we were anything but happy. I mean, our typical routine was we'd get paid, spend, and at the end of those 2 weeks, we'd usually be overdrawn and putting money on a credit card and just kicking ourselves, having no idea where did all the money go? And then we move into the blame game. We'd be blaming each other for the chaos and why we were so unhappy and why we're out of money. And she spent too much money on shopping. I'd blame her. And she'd look at me and say, well, you spend too much money on golf. And I still remember the morning that I woke up after Jamie and I had gotten in a huge fight the night before over money. And I said to myself, I cannot believe I'm repeating the cycle that I promised I would not repeat that I saw in my parents. And I realized that day something had to change. It's been said that insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting to get a different result. And that day sent me on a journey where I committed to radically do things differently when it came to our finances. I did what most people would find odd. I didn't turn to the latest financial guru or financial self-help book. I mean, at this point in my life, I have an MBA. I actually have a degree that says I've mastered the art of business administration. And what good is that doing to me in my own personal life? I couldn't even manage my own finances. I realized something is wrong. Maybe the advice and modeling I had seen all around me in culture was not serving me well. So instead, I turned to the Bible. I wanted to read everything this book had to say about finances. So that's the journey I went on. And what I learned and applied since then in my life has changed everything. I mean everything, not just financially. I believe this is the thing that saved my marriage more than anything else. It's the one thing that's drawn me closer to God than anything else I've done in life. And that's why I get so passionate about a class like this, because I just wish someone had taught me earlier. But historically, the church has not done a good job teaching on this topic. And that's mainly because most pastors and churches are afraid to talk about money. We're afraid to offend people. And I think that's really sad. And here's why. Because the church's job is to teach God's word, the Bible. And this is going to really shock some of you. Did you know the Bible is loaded with instructions and advice on money? As a matter of fact, if you added up everything Jesus talked about and made a list, it would blow you away. I mean, you would look at this list and you would say, okay, let's count. How many times did Jesus talk about love? How many times did he talk about forgiveness, faith, marriage? And the list would go on and on and on. And here's what you would find. There would be only one topic on that list that Jesus talked about more than money and possessions. Now, right now, in your minds, just take a guess. What do you think that topic was that Jesus talked about more than money and possessions? Well, the only other topic that Jesus talked about more than money and possessions was the kingdom of God. Jesus was always talking about the kingdom. He would start off a story and he would say something like this: the kingdom of God is like, and he would go on. So if Jesus felt it was important enough to talk about money that much, the church better do the same. We have to address this topic. So in every section that we go through today, I've put verses in your notes that I really want you to focus on and refer back to, because I don't want you to just hear my opinion. I want you to hear what God has to say on this topic. So get your notes out and follow along as we dig into how to have rock-solid finances. The structure of this class is built on one foundational biblical principle that we'll cover. And I'm going to spend some time on it because just like that house we saw, this is the foundation for everything else that we'll discuss today. And what I've found is that if you don't understand and apply this principle from the Bible, nothing else in this class will matter, and it really won't take hold in your life. Just like you'd have a hard time building a house without a strong foundation. And then after that foundational principle, we'll unpack the 4 most important principles I believe you need to have in your life to have rock-solid finances. But first things first, to have rock-solid finances, you have to have a perspective change about money. Let me tell you what my perspective was. It was mine, and I deserved to do whatever I wanted to with my money to make me happy. Isn't that how most of us think? I mean, it starts at an early age, this thinking. What's one of the first words that comes out of a baby's mouth when they learn how to talk? You parents get this. What is it? It's mine. They're consistently saying, that's mine, that's mine. And I think when we grow up, we still have this attitude. Of course my money is mine. Did you know that when you read your Bible, there isn't one place where it says that your money is your own? As a matter of fact, it says the exact opposite. So here is the foundational biblical principle that we find in the Bible. And for many of you, this is going to shock you. It says this: nothing in my possession is mine. God owns it all. I'm God's money manager. Now, biblically, this is where we get the word steward. It's always referred to as us being a steward. In Matthew 25, we see a verse where Jesus is telling the story, and he says again, it will be like a man going on a journey who called his servants and entrusted his property to them. One of my favorite verses on this topic is in 1 Chronicles 29, verse 11 through 12. It says this, everything in the heavens and earth is yours, O Lord, and this is your kingdom. We adore you as the one over all things. Wealth and honor come from you alone, for you rule over everything. Power and might are in your hand, and at your discretion, people are made great and given strength. And again, in Psalm 24, verse 1, it says, the earth is the Lord's and everything in it, the world and all who live in it. Everything that we have is God's. Now, the world tells you the exact opposite. The world would say, you are a consumer. It's your money. You should do whatever you want to with it. The Bible says you're a steward. Not 1 cent you have is yours. It all belongs to someone else, God. Now listen carefully. There is a huge difference between owning something that you believe is yours versus managing it for someone else. I still remember when this principle really sunk in with me. And if you have kids, you'll get this, because this has happened to you at some point as well. I took my daughter Carly when she was around the age of 3 to just grab lunch at a fast food restaurant, kind of just a little dad-daughter date. I had wrapped up my meal mostly. I was out of French fries, still a little hungry. And so I reached over to grab a few of her fries that she had left over. And she said this to me.
Daddy, those are mine.
Mine? You know what I'm thinking to myself? You little 3-year-old, those are not your French fries. Your dad bought those for you and gave them to you. You know, sometimes I think that's exactly how God views us and some of our attitudes about what He's given us. Now, I know what some of you are thinking, because I thought the exact same thing. I know everything is God's, Ashley. I've heard that before, but come on, let's get realistic here. I'm the one who gets up every day and works my tail off at my job. I work endless hours for a boss that doesn't even appreciate me, and I'm underpaid. So yeah, I know it's all God's. I've heard that before, but I'm still the one earning it. Come on, let's be honest. I'm the one making it happen. And here's God's response to that attitude. It's in your notes. And if you don't already, you have to read your Bible. God has a really good sense of humor. Listen to this. He says this, you may say to yourself, my power and the strength of my hands, notice the my phrasing, have produced this wealth for me. But remember the Lord your God, for it is He who gives you the ability to produce wealth. That's in Deuteronomy 8, verse 17 through 18. God is saying this in that verse. He's saying, I gave you the strength you have, the brains you have, and the skills you have for the job you have, and I can take it away just like that. Don't ever think you've earned it. So here I am. I'm thinking, I don't think or act this way at all. So in my life, I needed a major perspective change. Some of you need the same type of change. And I'm going to challenge you that unless you have this change in perspective, you'll never get your finances in order. A powerful reminder for me has been the keys that I carry around on this key ring. These represent so much of what I possess in life. I have a key to my house, a key to my car, I have a key to get into work. And I began to view everything that I have as God's. Now, do you know how profound of a biblical principle this is? It changes everything. I mean, every spending decision now becomes a spiritual decision when you're spending money that doesn't belong to you. And this perspective change radically changed my life. I remember once I was driving down the street and I was driving in a Honda Accord that I just recently bought, and I got in a really bad car accident. Someone came out of nowhere and slammed in the side of my car. My car went spinning across the road, airbags deployed, and luckily I only had minor injuries, so I was able to get out of that car, and I was sitting on the side of the road, but I was looking at my car, it's completely totaled. I mean, the whole side of it is crushed in. And as I sat there on the side of the road, just looking at my car, I had this thought, God, I have no idea why you'd want to ruin your car, but there must be a reason. I want you to know there's something powerful that happens between you and God when you acknowledge His ownership and your contentment with whatever He gives you. Let me illustrate it this way by using the example I told you earlier about my daughter slapping my hand away. Now imagine instead that when I reached over and asked my daughter for some French fries, she actually said this.
Dad, I realize these fries aren't mine in the first place. You bought them and gave them to me. They are really yours. Dad, I know I've never gone hungry before. You take as many as you want and eat. I trust you, Daddy.
Could you imagine my reaction as her father? The first thing I would say is I would look at her and say, who are you and what in the world did you do with my daughter? But in the first scenario, do I want to bless my daughter? No. In the second, absolutely. I want to give my daughter whatever she needs. What I'm suggesting to you is simply this, that we have to change our perspective from it's mine to God owns it all, and I'm simply managing it for Him. Now don't miss this. This is the foundation for the whole class. And I'm convinced that unless you understand this biblical principle, nothing else in this class will really take hold in your heart, and there will be very little real and meaningful change with anything else we talk about. Billy Graham once said, if a person gets his attitude towards money straight, it will help straighten out almost every other area of his life.
Millions of parents across the country, myself included, have been waiting for it to finally arrive. More than 28 million children are now eligible to get vaccinated.
Oh, gotta get out of this.
Children aged 5 to 11. While most kids don't get it sick as adults, COVID, more than 2 million kids aged 5 to 11 have gotten COVID, more than 83 million were hospitalized. 173 died, although again, think about that. Vaccinating kids will not only help keep them safe, it will help slow down the spread.
Huh? Yeah, thanks.
Vaccine, millions of doses have already been shipped across the country. Because this is an entirely new vaccination program with smaller doses and smaller needles, the regular shot is there that quickly 16 years long. Dr. Fauci, the director of the National Institute of Allergy.
All right, there we go.
Yes, sir.
Rock solid finances. One of the things that he mentioned early on was that house when I'm gonna say Reverend Ike. That's when Hurricane Ike came through. I don't really remember other than that it was devastation. And looking at that house, how it was just protected during that whole time, you just know God was all in that and protecting that house. And probably the people who were in it, if they were still in it, you know.
Yep.
That was the water. Part of the introduction that I used as a graphic was the house on fire. Now, for me, that as a graphic example, it came at one point because I had a dream, and the dream was that in my garage I have tons of books, and the garage caught on fire, and all of my books were going up in a blaze. So right, I remember waking up and saying, "Oh, my books, my books, my books," and then that it was a dream. But the key thing was that in that, you know, it was part of my devotion piece was that is yes, I have a lot of books, and some of them have some sentimental value, and some are business and can help in various ways for business, finance. But if they aren't in use, allowing other people to use them, that was a key thing. Because if they went up ablaze, then I wouldn't have the books anymore. But they could be used. So whenever I see that graphic that I have, I think about that. that dream that I had, and that your life may not be up in the blaze, but you need to have the resources to take care of your life, so that that you're prepared for that. So um, and one of the other things that he spoke about, and a lot of brothers probably are aware that, well, I guess just in asking the question, was anything that he said new? And he may presented it somewhat differently, but was it new? Was it something that we've never heard before? And over the years, it's not so much what we know as how much we understand, and the key is application. And if we're talking about get your house in order, we want to have rock solid finances. Yes, some of the resources that we have can help with that. And we hope that, excuse me, throughout the next 4 weeks or 3 weeks right now, that those that sign in and register and complete the booklet, begin to work through the booklet that that everyone should has. On one of the sessions, we'll go through the questions and answer them together. We'll just and more importantly, what reflections people may have on about their finances, um, from the past, present, and future. One of the things with Christian Men Inc. is that intergenerational approach, and having a group of men and boys together talking about the financial, ups and downs of life and money. Deke, I know you've had some experience as a deacon in just the brother that's not sure what to do, and as far as whether it be a refinance, where to go, whatever it is to how to best handle money. And I think the key thing is, what are we doing? How are we handling our money? And what are the resources that we're using? Was there something with the video, Deke, that stuck out to you?
I think, as you said, that you've heard uh, the financial presentations, but what always seems to be the challenge and stick with me is just the phrase that is my money. I can do what I want to do with it. You can't tell me how to spend my money. I earn my money. I can do whatever I want to do. And that is just really something that sticks in the craw of every man. He's just pedantic in thinking that way. And unless you get again a different perspective on that, it's going to be hard for you to do the adjustments, because I don't care how much money you making, if you're mishandling the money, at the end of the day, you're gonna be short. You're gonna have a negative balance. And if you got a negative balance and you look around and you don't see anyone around you but yourself, it's hard for you to come back to the table and say, I did this. You say, I got to get some more money. I'm not making enough. I got to find another way to do it. And in some instances, you find the individual going out trying to get a second job, even a third job, to try to get more money. Now he's not taking care of himself. He's not taking care of his family. And he's not taking care of his community. When you abandon self, family, and community, You know, you in a ship now that's without a sail. You don't have a direction. You don't know where you are headed. And most of the time, it ends up in a crash, destruction. You have ran aground on something or into something. And so now we got a real situation now because of the fact that you ran aground, you don't have any resources to help repair the damage that you've caused. You don't have any resources. And in many cases, in some cases, some of the resources are the lifelines that you did have because of your carelessness, immaturity. You have sought all those relationships. You have disconnected from those relationships because you didn't honor them. You didn't honor the relationships that you had established. So when you start talking about these dollars and managing your money, becoming a steward, that thing has far-ranging effect into other areas that maybe you didn't intend to affect, but there it is, bumped into the wall. That's what kind of scares you to a degree, because sometimes it leads into another direction which you never thought about. When you begin to think about how you are possessive about your own money, your own dollars, then if you have a working spouse, she goes into the same position. Well, it's my money. I spend it the way I want to spend my money. Now you got a runaway train. Nobody is pulling in the same direction. Lack of resources to the house, lack of resources for the future, lack of resources to stabilize the present conditions in the house financially. So that kind of leads into a lot of reflections on some of those things, especially that I've encountered even now and in the past. It's a challenge.
Well, when we look around at our community, we you can pick any area that you want to pick as far as what the issue is. Our as a people, our health conditions. Well, why is that? Well, we may be eating poorly, and that may be because we can't buy the fruits and vegetables, either because we don't have access to, or they cost too much. And or it could be on your job. You can't go on to school because you have some issues. So when we look at all of those reasons, it perpetuates that same piece. Even I think when we have those crashes, as you said, when you run aground, Lord is so gracious, and where he kind of will, somehow manage and do what's needed to help you get back in the water, so to speak. And once that's done, beyond, for that moment, you've been on your knees for that whole period of time. Now you're back in the ocean, and you think everything is honky dory. And that's where one of the things that I think he was mentioning, that perspective, it changes for a moment, and it is challenging in maintaining that perspective that it ain't mine. It's ours, it's his, and
Yes.
how should I be handling it? So I mean, there's no cookie cutter approach on how to get anybody to agree to say, no, I know it's his, and he given to me to be a steward or trustee, as I say, over it. And every time I want to spend a dime, do I, ask him, should I buy that newspaper? Well, you can't buy a newspaper now for a dime, like you used to now, $2 or whatever. But that's really being mindful of whose funds and resources they are. And if handled right, which is his expectation, that we have 30, 60, 100-fold return, so that is his expectation. So, he's one of the best financial planners I think that we know, and we just got to sit at the table and across the table from him and say, okay, what do you want me to do with your money? Well, this was session number 1. For the follow-up, in preparation for the next session, we'll review what we did, and I'll reach out to everyone to offer their feedback. What did you glean from the presentation? What are some action steps, just one action step, that you're going to do for yourself? And those that are willing to share, then that can maybe encourage another brother to say, yeah, I want to do this. I know most of the time is get out of debt. Everyone wants to cut their credit cards and pay off the mortgage and pay off, all that. So, and we're going to have someone in addition to that conversation about debt and finances and credit, to offer some biblically based practical strategies that can, help accomplish that goal, if that is one of your goals and objectives financially. So we'll be set for November the 10th. That'll be next Wednesday. And in the meantime, Deke, is any final words that you want to share?
Well, the PDF that you sent to everyone,
Right.
you scroll down to the bottom of the page, you see the PDF, the attachment. You need to just look at that and review that to go through all 4 of the sessions, so that you will have some idea about these video presentations that are made each week like that, so you can be at least aware of the direction in which we're going. And so just take time to take your notes, post any questions back to us, any other kind of concerns. So what we're trying from that perspective. So again, we want to simplify the approach, so that all you need to do is just have an internet and be able to have your email. And when we get to these type of presentation, you just click on the information that we send to you, and you are in.
Yes.
Bang.
Yes.
And that's it. But we also have a phone number
Right.
that you will be able to phone in. If you don't have internet, you can have phone, and then you can over here listen to the presentation if you're not be able to have video to view it. So that's another addition that we are put into the presentation.
Great. Absolutely. Well, Deke, it's been a good one. Good day.
Amen.
And we'll be in touch. Talk to you tomorrow, really.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Take care, my brother, and have a
All
good
right.
night.
Good night.